Hi, this is Greg McCoach, editor of the Mining Speculator. I'm here today at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver, Canada on Remembrance Day. That's why I got my red poppy on, celebrating those who have served in the world wars and for Canada. Anyway, today we will be talking with Scott Close, Director of Investor Relations with EMX Gold Royalty. Scott, welcome to the interview.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's good to be here.
Yeah, you and I have known one another for a long time. We've been going to these conferences for many, many years. I've been a follower of Dave Cole and EMX and your company for I think most of that time, 20 years. So I love the company. I love the model. It's a royalty company, and royalty companies have gathered a lot of interest because the risk is so much lower than just general exploration, but you also get a portion of the reward. You sell the risk and get a portion of the reward. So meanwhile, you're building these relationships. Time comes, things go into production, you get your royalties. Explain why that's such a powerful concept compared to other models.
Well, if you engage in mining, it's a very capital intensive endeavor. So a large modern day mine, the capital expenditures necessary to bring that to production are commonly denominated in billions of dollars. Right. And mining itself is fraught with a long litany of risk, whether that's commodity pricing risk, political risk, social risk, environmental risk, geologic risk, metallurgical risk. It just
fraught with risk.
There's a lot of risk, and that list is even longer. So, as a royalty company, it doesn't require the capital expenditures that mining does, nor is it fraught with all those risks. We simply check our bank account every month to make sure that those wire transfers hit from those production royalties. And it really doesn't get any better than that. So we can operate with a much smaller team and with much less capital on the line, yet still gain those exposures to risk, to metals. And these times you want exposure to precious metals, I think. But it's just a safer, more stable way to do it.
Yes, and you guys have demonstrated over a long period of time that you're rock solid at doing it. You've developed a great team to go out and find the new properties, develop them to a certain point that someone would be interested in buying them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not easy to do. So you have to be very sharp and know what these companies want and be able to deliver. They see that, hey, you've made a discovery here. You don't want to put it in production, so you give it to somebody else, hand it off. They spend all the money, raise all the capital to get it done, and you get a small 2% net smelter royalty or whatever the deal is. Most of them are in that 1 to 3%.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you start adding these up after time, Dave's been doing this, and Scott can tell you and verify that. The company, a royalty company, needs some time, but they keep adding more and more projects, royalties, and so those monies start to build. And now it's starting to become a critical mass. We're not going to go into the exact specifics on all that, but do your due diligence. You'll find out that this is a rock solid investment, I think, at this particular moment, because the stock's trading for what, $2.50 Canadian?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow. I mean, shocking, right?
Yeah.
Based on what I know about the company, you can determine for yourself, viewers, but this is why, if you look at who the biggest shareholders are, it's the who's who list of smart money in mining, right? There's a reason for that, and you want to pay attention. And just to name a few, you got Franco-Nevada, who's not invested in any other junior mining company.
Or any other royalty company.
Right, so that's a big endorsement, huge endorsement, right?
For both our business model and for our management.
And those are some of the smartest guys I've ever come across in the mining space.
Absolutely.
So, and then there's other, Eric Sprott, is involved, of course, and any others you want to mention? Just for
Adrian Day, U.S. Funds, Paul
Right.
Stevens out of San Francisco. He's the guy who took Apple and Cisco Systems public, very shrewd venture capitalist. Newmont's a big shareholder.
Yeah.
Rick Rule and his clients
Yeah.
are big shareholders. And then EMX management staff and directors hold about 12% of the shares.
Yeah. So, I mean, that speaks volumes in my view. So.
You know, getting back to this thing when you were talking about 2% royalties. So mining business statistics tell us throughout history that on average, mining companies have about an 8% profit margin. So if we have a 2% NSR or 2% net smelter royalty on a property, we're getting essentially 1/4 of the profits without spending, years and years, in some cases, multiple decades, developing and then building and bringing a mine to production and spending hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to do so, and then having to operate within all of those risks.
Oh.
So it's a much more streamlined, much more efficient, much safer way of gaining exposure to the metals than mining itself.
Yeah, and of course I deal in exploration, development, and some producers, but most of what I do is royalty or exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you the exploration companies, they're constantly fraught with, got to raise more money, right? And, things happen, the market goes south for a while, you spend money, but you're not really moving ahead. The royalty model, in my view, if you're looking to invest in this space, EMX has to be one of the first companies to consider because it has so little risk at current prices and so much upside and a long future ahead of itself. So, can't speak better about it than that. I think I've reiterated why I'm a shareholder and why it's been in my newsletter for so long. So with that being said, anything that you see that is on the horizon that we can talk about that looks like deal making? Like I know Dave likes to go over into these countries in Turkey. You've had a lot of deal making in Turkey over the years. Most people would say, why Turkey? What? But it's highly mineralized.
It is highly mineralized, and they have some political difficulties now, and they have a big inflation problem, which actually works in favor of the miners because the miners pay most of their bills, their liabilities, in the local currency, but when they sell their metals, they sell them for U.S. dollars, so they make out like bandits.
Yeah.
We've operated in Turkey for 20 years now, and so and there's a lot of people who hand-wring about us being in Turkey, but we feel pretty solid there. So we understand it a lot better than I think most people do.
Yeah,
so.
I think what makes Dave so unique, Dave Cole is the president CEO of EMX Gold Royalty. I've known Dave since I met him down at the New Orleans Gold Show when he first got started, back in 2001 or 2 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah.
2002. I was there. That's where I met Dave. I've been a shareholder ever since. But he seems to understand the political risk.
That's
why?
Right.
Because he's lived there. He's worked there.
That's right.
He knows the ins and outs of the country. So he's not afraid of the political risk because he knows what he's doing over there. And I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, we play on political arbitrage. Now, we're not always in sort of, countries that have more risk to them. We're in a lot of more stable jurisdictions like United States and Canada and Fennoscandia and so on. But we are in a number of jurisdictions and have been in the past that were less stable. But we call it political arbitrage. So through our due diligence, we may come to the conclusion that the perceived risk is up here, but the actual risk is down here, right? So in that arbitrage, there's a lot of opportunity. For instance, we were the first people to go into Serbia after the Balkan Wars simmered down.
Right. I haven't heard anybody of the Canadian miners wanting to go to a place like that, but Dave does it almost effortlessly.
Yeah. So because nobody else was in there was no competition. Yeah. So we were able to pick up a very handsome portfolio of projects within the Timok magmatic complex around the Bor district and stuff. So that's going to pay out very handsomely for us in the future.
Really exciting. So with that, I mean, we only have 10 minutes to do these interviews. We could talk lots, especially about the topic that I just talked about up on the stage there.
Mhm.
You and I have talked about what's going on in the big picture, and we're all in agreement here. But it's exciting for gold. It's exciting for precious metals. It's very exciting for a solid royalty company like EMX Gold Royalties. Scott, thanks for
My pleasure,
being here.
Greg.